If you watched my last video, you know my Work Sharp knife sharpener died on me while I was sharpening. So I'm going to show you how I fixed the problem through the magic of buying a new tool. I bought the Bucktool 10-inch variable speed wet sharpener, and in this video I'm going to find out if that was a good decision or if I made a mistake. The first thing to do is to unbox this thing. It's a good size box, maybe 16 inches cubed, and it weighs about 35 pounds. I have not opened this yet, so we get to do that together. And I decided to go with something other than a Work Sharp, just because I saw the failure mode of my last tool, and I'm not confident that they have changed how that part is made, and that wouldn't be a failure mode going forward. So I went way down the rabbit hole on the internet of different sharpening systems, different sharpening tools, and I finally settled on this one. And I'll talk about why a little bit later in the video. But for now, let's get into it. So the first thing, the good stuff, we got some stickers, which is always fun. Put those on the sticker wall. It's super no frills packaging. If I tip this forward here, you'll see some styrofoam and components just loose in the top. We've got a manual. We've got the angle setting gauge. We've got some knobs. We have a tool holder for plane irons and chisels. We've got some wrenches. We've got the bar to adjust and hold the tools. We've got a tube of compound to go on the strop, the leather wheel. And I'm assuming we've got the tool holder. And then pulling the styrofoam out, we've got the tool itself, and it's pretty nicely packaged in here. If I tip this forward, looks like it was able to ship without getting damaged. We've got our 10-inch grinding wheel. We have the tool. And it already has the leather wheel installed. And we've got a big giant plastic bag that we can give to the kids to play with. We also have a very standard detachable power cord, which is nice. I am a big fan of removable power cords. I like being able to take them off and tuck things away. And given the size of this, we might even be able to build a little box or a case to put it in, which would be nice. All right, let's put it through its paces, get it put together, and see what we find out. Taking a little closer look at the front of the machine, I just went ahead and put it together. I'm not gonna do a full setup and walk through all of the steps, but we mounted the grinding wheel, we put some light machine oil on the stropping wheel, and I added a little bit of stropping compound. What I liked about this when I did my homework was it is all metal. A lot of the less expensive options were plastic, and I mean, plastic is fine, but metal is always nicer. It's variable speed, so it goes from, they claim 90 revolutions per minute up to 160, and it also can go forward or reverse, so you can grind with the wheel, or you can grind against the wheel. So that's a nice option. I am not enough of an expert on knife sharpening to know if I want to grind with or against, but it's there. Let's go ahead and get it turned on. And at the slowest speed, it's nice and quiet. Now I realize I'm mic'd up and I am standing maybe 2.5 feet away from the tool, but very, very quiet. It is not loud at all. And as you can see, it is picking up the water and getting a nice sheeting there. The one thing that really impressed me when I put this together and turned it on is how true it appears to run. I watched a lot of online videos and I did a lot of reading on Reddit and in different forums, and on some of these less expensive water sharpening systems, having true wheels can be a real challenge. So I am pleased to see that this is very true, And I did see a lot of people recommended that for the money in the budget tool space, Bucktool does a really good job of punching above its weight class. It's not the cheapest of the inexpensive tools, but it does a better job in general than the cheap, inexpensive tools. At least from what I've read, quality control seems to be a little bit more consistent, and that is definitely something when you're looking for a budget option. Something I wanted to test real quick since I have an optical tachometer. So this is a variable speed. It says it's 90 RPM at the low end and 160 RPM at the high end. And is it actually capable of doing that? So I have got two reflective dots, one close to the hub and one all the way outside. And we're gonna measure it and see. So it's currently on its lowest speed. It's supposed to be 90 RPM. So we're gonna get that on there. And I don't know if you can see it on camera, but I'm at 99.5, jumping up to 101.9. I'm going to call it somewhere between 95 and 100. Now, if I measure it out here at the hub, I'm getting about the same. So right around 100, and it claims 90. So let's turn this all the way up to its fastest speed. And you might be able to hear the water, and I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but that's where it gets a little splashy, and you might see a lot of water splashing out there. So now if we measure it, I'm at 177.6 at the outside of the hub. Should be real close to the same on the inside of the hub, 178.5, 176.7, 100, yep, so about 175. So it actually does meet the speed, the low end and the high end, pretty closely. And within, I would say, a reasonable margin of error. I've got my candidate knife for the inaugural sharpening, and if you recall, this is the same knife that I did an absolutely terrible job cutting in the last video. And it has actually been used a few times since. So it's cutting for parts of the blade, it's tearing for other parts of the blade. It's far better than it was before I sharpened it in the last video, but it needs a lot of help. So this is the blade that we're gonna give this a go with first. How you set this up is you get your knife in the jig, and I just put a little bit of tape on the spine of the knife to keep it from scratching. You set this against the stone, and then you use this angle finder to set your angle of cut, and it just sits against the stone wheel and touches the knife, and when the flat part lines up with the knife, then that is the angle set. So I want to profile this to a 20-degree angle. So I have my little depth stop set to 20 degrees. Now I need to adjust this bar up or down, and in my case I think it needs to go down just a little bit so that that angle lines up with the knife, and then we will be grinding the edge of the knife at 20 degrees. So I'm gonna get that set up off camera because it's a little fiddly to try and do while I'm staying out of the way of the camera so you can see, and then we'll get this turned on and do some grinding. My initial impressions of setting the angle are, it's a little fiddly because you have a couple of different things that you can adjust. You can adjust this bar up and down to change the angle as you raise and lower this tool. You can also adjust this up and down to raise and lower. So it took a few minutes to get that angle set, and I'm sure you won't be able to see it from over there, but now when I set this with the angle gauge and check it, I'm right at my 20-degree mark. So the next thing to do is turn this on, do some grinding, see if we can get a better edge on it. Let's do it. I am going to grind with the wheel turning away from me. We'll see how that works. And I also read that if you start at the tip and work your way to the heel, you have more control. I'm definitely no sharpologist, so I don't know if that is true or not, but we're gonna give it a try because I read it on the internet, and if you read it on the internet, it has to be true, right? All right, first pass done. here is the after. It is not hair popping sharp. It's as sharp as it was when I started, maybe a hair sharper. Definitely need some practice with this. I am going to say that I've gotten this knife back to at least as sharp as it was, maybe slightly sharper, but it is not hair popping sharp on your arm. Like as I run it over my arm, yeah, it's not shaving. So one of the things that I think I need to do is get an inexpensive knife. Not that these are crazy money, but get a knife that I don't use every day, an inexpensive knife, and do some practice. Give it the paper test. It is certainly not just pushing through the paper, but it's cutting, and it's cutting a little better than it was. So net, it is sharper than when it started, but probably not by more than 10%. I think that there is a lot of potential in these wet sharpening systems. The thing that is really intriguing is you can't, in theory, overheat your blade and ruin the temper because the water keeps the blade edge cool. That remains to be seen. I feel like given enough time, I can ruin anything if I put my mind to it. Part of the reason I decided to go with a completely different tool and not another work sharp, my fear was that the new model would have the exact same design flaw as the old model, and that pinion would be a molded piece pressed onto the motor shaft. And down the road, it could have the same failure that I saw with the Worksharp that I had. I don't know if Worksharp has their own in-house product engineers. I have worked with companies that do contract manufacturing, and oftentimes they don't have in-house product engineering. They rely on the contract manufacturer for that. So it's possible that Worksharp completely outsourced this, and that's what the contract manufacturer decided to do. It might save 10 or 15 cents per unit in the bill of material, and 10 or 15 cents to you or I, we might say, heck, charge an extra $1, I don't care, I'll pay for an upgradable, repairable tool. But 10 or 15 cents across millions and millions of units, that adds up to real money, and that goes right to the bottom line, either the contract manufacturers or Worksharps. So I guess I can't fault them too much for not having replacement parts. It is a shame though. Am I happy with this Bucktool variable speed wet sharpener? It's a little too early to say that it absolutely meets every expectation that I have, and it is making razor sharp knives for me with no effort. It's a tool, and it's going to require a little bit of practice to get the skill dialed in. For the money, I think I am happy. I paid $235 for this in July 2025. I could have paid a lot more. I could have paid less. I like the fact that it's a variable speed. I like the fact that it's pretty solidly constructed. It's made out of metal. Read good reviews of Bucktool for quality control, being one of their stronger suits for being a budget manufacturer. And from my experience so far, this has been a fine tool. It's done exactly what it said. I think the real problem with the tool is the tool behind the tool. So I need to put a lot more work in. But overall, I think that this is going to serve me well, hopefully for a long, long time. And I don't really see anything that's going to fail catastrophically with this. And if something does fail catastrophically, it looks modular enough, I can probably replace it or repair it. In my last video, I made a reference that since my Worksharp broke, I had an opportunity to buy a Tormarmac. And it would have been really nice to purchase one of those. It's certainly a well-built tool, probably the Cadillac of all of these wet sharpeners. When I looked at the Tormarmac T4, that was almost $500, and the Tormarmac T8 was close to $1,000. The Bucktools that I purchased was $233, $234. So half the price of the Tormarmac T4 and a fifth of the price of the Tormarmac T8. I'm a hobbyist. I do this just for my own edification. I don't make money woodworking, and I don't make money sharpening tools. So it was really tough to justify spending that much money on the Tormarmac. Would I have liked to have had it? Absolutely. Could I justify it for what my needs are? Absolutely not. And the Bucktool is certainly not the only tool in this category about the same price. Grizzly offers one, Win offers one, Jet has one, and there are a ton with unpronounceable names on the internet that all look very similar. I decided to go with the Bucktool because, again, I had read that they had a better reputation than a lot of the other manufacturers specifically from a QA standpoint. And that was important to me. If I'm going to spend less, I don't want to get a tool that isn't worth my time. And that was my concern buying a Grizzly or a Win. I took a gamble with the Bucktool, but so far it seems to be paying off. If you've made it this far in the video, I hope you've enjoyed it. If you like what we do around here, I'd invite you to consider subscribing to the channel. Thanks for watching.